Morning, everyone. I stand on existing protocols and I want to once again warmly welcome His Excellency, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, to this dialogue session. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
So just before we start, just a reminder that this is a presidential dialogue on the economy. So when we give time for questions and answers, we'd just like us to limit our questions to conversations around the economy. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, as we start this dialogue, I just want your opening thoughts about what your urgent priorities would be when you assume office, if you're elected on the 29th of May. So what are those key things that you would like to run with in the first 100 to 200 days in office? What should citizens expect to see, given the current situation in the country as has been presented by our colleague who is the Director of Research of the NESG?
Well, I think, thank you. The first thing, without which there's no other, the other ones won't even follow, is the issue of security. We'll aggressively, from day one, start dealing with the issue of insecurity, which have said that the enemies are not more formidable. I've traveled all over Nigeria. I've been to places that people said you can't go, like I mentioned. I've been to Pew in southern Borno. I went to Katangu in southern Gombe, where they say we shouldn't go. I went to Mubi in Adamawa. People asked them, why Mubi? As governor, I buried one day 20 Anambarians who were killed in Mubi. So when I arrived at Adamawa, I said, leave Yola, I want to go to Mubi. And again, they told me the same thing. These places you're going, you're not secure, we didn't have police, we don't have anything, and everything. I said, well, let's go there. People live there. I went to places, so issue of security of life and property is our number one priority, without which there won't be any other thing. Following that is the issue of trying to bring in some intangible assets that I can call low-hanging fruits, ensuring the rule of law, law and order, and a great environment that will start making people to have confidence to start investing in this. And of course, our main mantra is to remove country from consumption to production. As you can see in the presentation, you see that everything here revolves around lack of production and not doing the right things, being a productive country. That's basically what we will focus aggressively from day one.
Okay, thank you, Your Excellency. So within those first 100 to 200 days, we expect to see traction in the area of security.
I can tell you that from day one, activity in Anambra, from day one. Because there's no other thing to do, because the president is not even secure today. They're telling him places to go, and he say, you can see the president now being asked not to come to a state. So what else is he going to do if he cannot even move around? So from day one, even as I speak now, I'm the only candidate who have said I've interviewed the IG of police, I've interviewed all the security heads. The day I went to see the IG of the present IG of police, he told me why he was. I said, listen, I don't want to go into office and start telling people what I saw when I come in. I want to see everything from outside. So if it's not possible, let me stay where I am. So from day one.
Okay, thank you, Your Excellency. Our numbers, like have been presented here today, suggest that there's been economic growth, but that growth has not translated to improved socioeconomic conditions. It has not even translated to improved living standards. Living standards at an all-time low in Nigeria as we speak. And then given the rising unemployment and underemployment, with youth disproportionately bearing the burden of this unemployment crisis, what are your thoughts around improving or scaling employment opportunities when you assume office?
Well, for me, when you move like I said, from consumption to production. What I expect that comes with issue of creating jobs. Today, you have most of even from the rest that have been shown here, you have most of your states, most of the subnationals virtually living on sharing whatever they can get from statutory allocation. There's nothing happening. Even the so-called productive sectors like our manufacturing sector, everything, look at the percentage our manufacturing sector contribute to GDP. That's less than 10%. If you check all other countries, that's comparable countries, is about twice that minimum. The agriculture, which is actually contributing more in terms of almost 26%, again, those who are involved in that sector will even tell you they're not doing anything where it should be, considering that near over 50% of our arable lands are cultivated. So there's a lot of improvement, and you see a lot of government measures that is being advertised in TV. They only end up in TV. Most of them are actually not scaled down to where they will be. You only hear those good figures on TV. So we're going to do it differently. Where we're going to ensure that all those programs and everything are actually executed in a manner where they support the industries. But you can't do all this without dealing with the issue of power. And I've said that if you do the right support to power generation, transmission, and distribution, considering that it's been shown that power alone, if you get it right, can add up to 2% to your GDP. We are looking at figure 3. So if we have a sector that can add another 2, I'll do everything possible. We'll do everything possible to ensure that that sector is up and running. And then consider that manufacturing is where you're going to create jobs. If you look at our manifesto, we say we're going to have an agrarian revolution that will support the industries and lead to exports. In doing all this, you'll be able to create jobs and be able to start pulling people out of poverty.
Thank you. What specific sectors would you be focusing on? Because the scale of the problem is huge. So what sort of sectors will you be focusing on to?
Agriculture. Manufacturing. And we support it in such a way that you focus on export. There's other areas where you can, of course, try to develop more, even in entertainment, even other areas that have shown growth from what is happening in ICT. But these are the fundamental things that a target that Nigeria must feed itself. Because we have our biggest physical access is uncultivated land in the north. And when we talk about poverty and youth unemployment, the north is where it is worse. And that focus on the north, considering that there are vast uncultivated land. I was telling somebody yesterday how I went to prison to discuss Niger State. You have 7 local governments in Niger State is under control of bandits. I discussed with the governor, the present governor. He can't even go there. Nobody goes there. Schools there, everything is shut down. So what I do is that I took a tour. I went to the prison to see the young boys who are causing this problem, who have been arrested. Why did you do this? He said they have no job. Said, so how much were you paid in the last operation? 20,000, 30,000. None of them was paid more than 30,000. And that's what they paid them to kill somebody. compared that. I went to Kenya. I went to the flower fields where young people were cultivating flower. They were being paid $100. And unemployment in Kenya is less than 10%. I went to Ethiopia and saw where we were picking coffee. Unemployment is there. So, agriculture, if well supported, Niger State has fertile land that I can compare to the best in the world. Some of the people who are involved with agriculture here, and they can educate me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure it is because I saw it. And I came to the government and sat there and said, no, you live on 776.3 thousand square kilometers of land. And all you get every year for statutory allocation is less than 50 billion naira. And this vast land is here, all cultivated. And I gave him an example. I said, it might not be a perfect example because you can say this is Western world. I told him, I said, Netherlands with 33,000 square kilometers, which you have 2.5 times, did agricultural export of $120 billion in 2021. If you do 5% of that, that's $6 billion, which are 650. Sorry, bankers will say it's 420. I don't buy 420, I'm very sorry. So it's 620, it's about 3.9 trillion. Almost 80 times what you get from sharing. So there's a lot we can do with the vast uncultivated land in the north. For me, that is where we should key in. When I met Shehu of Borno, it was something I told him. You can't have this vast land, everything. Yes, the complaint issue of dams and everything. I said, but we have flooding somewhere. Why can't we start? We get the experts to tell us how to divert this water instead of causing us problem when we need it somewhere to do somewhere. There must be a way. These things are done today. So we can create dams and everything and all that. So this is my focus.
Thank you. Now, we see right now that our borrowing projections exceed revenue expectations. So we're borrowing even more than the revenue coming in. And the quality of the borrowing, we're borrowing to service debt. We have an impending debt crisis. We're also borrowing, to pay even PMS subsidy. So what are your thoughts around alternative funding models for the country as we look at the outlook for 2023? What sort of alternative funding models will you be thinking about? Because the borrowing is not sustainable.
Well, first is to discuss borrowing. There's nothing wrong in borrowing. Absolutely. It is what you use what you borrowed for to do. Borrowing is no country of the world that I know that is not borrowing money. None of them that I know that do not have debt. All of them. Even Norway with the 1.4 trillion sovereign wealth is still borrowing. Everybody borrows. Every country we've used as an example, even people those who are sophisticated, some professors. With my little experience as a trader, I know that the biggest country, which is America, today have almost 90% debt to GDP. Second one, China, over 60 to GDP. Japan is 230. Even Singapore, people cite every day, is 130% debt to GDP. The problem we have as a country is that the money we borrowed was just simply disappeared. Some swallowed by snakes, some swallowed by this. So nobody knows where the money went. So borrowing is not a problem. We will borrow more. I can assure you. We will restructure. Yesterday, I had a bank, a very top bank that I respect. He said to me, Peter, I'm worried about this. They said it's 70. If you add 40 something to 23, what that means? But you didn't add the borrowing of this year's budget, which is about 7 trillion. So it's about 77 now by the time we conclude this year. So he said, how are you going to deal with it? I said, well, listen, countries have been worse than that. And I can show you using an example of 2 countries that have borrowed in the past few years. So we will first restructure what is existing today. After which, we will now, one of the things that I said I'll do, that I must take a law to National Assembly to ensure that all our borrowing, like it's in Singapore, is for investment. And there must be investment everybody can see. On Thursday, I was in Bauchi, and I said to people, let's go and visit the tomb of Tafawa Balewa. My vice presidential candidate asked me, Peter, why? And I said to them, for what this man did, our first loan as a country was borrowed in 1964 by Tafawa Balewa. June 17th, he wrote the World Bank to borrow $82 million to build 760 megawatts of electricity generation in Kaiju Dam. 59 years after, Kaiju Dam is still standing, even contributing in its own small way. But today, our debt is 77 trillion. If you use their official rate, because they use the official rate to calculate, let me not use my rate now, it's $187 billion. $82 million in 64 is about 1.2, 1.4 now. So if I use 1,250,000,000, that money is about 150 Kainji dams. Where is it? That is the problem of our borrowing. Lagos Ibadan Express Road, the last time I checked, to complete it is just about 250 billion naira. East-West Road, which is where we get the oil from, everything, the most important road there in Niger Delta, was about 300 and something billion. Kaduna, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano. These three roads is just about 1 trillion. And they tell you that the money they borrowed is for capital projects. Which capital project is more important than this three? At least we can see it. We can feel it. You say, oh, this is... We've borrowed almost over 50 trillion in the past 5 years.
Wow.
That was all probably 70% swallowed by snake.
All right.
So these are the things we need to start looking at. How do we say we're going to borrow? There's nothing wrong in borrowing.
But it has to be for investment.
For investment that is visible, transparent, verifiable by the citizens.
All right, Your Excellency, let me throw
And then because the other things you mentioned there is the issue of we're borrowing to pay subsidy. And you know that subsidy is organized crime. I've said it, day one, it must go. Because I've challenged it everywhere. I've said it time that number. We are 215 million thereabout. Pakistan is about the same population. They have more roads than Nigeria. I don't know whether they have more cars because I haven't checked. But their road network is more than Nigeria. And they consume less than 50% of what we consume daily. So we must find those who are drinking the fuel, the fuel, and give them water because it's better to drink water than to drink the food. And then use the resource. So that will go from day one.
All right, Your Excellency.
And we support, so no more any form of subsidy. If we're going to do it, it's something that the people will see the convincing economic reason. Maybe in certain areas to spur growth, we can do that, but not in consumption.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Let me throw it open for questions. Please, if you have a question. Yes, please.
Good morning. Good morning, Your Excellency. My name is Lanre Akimbo. I'm a non-executive director with the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. I have a quick comment and a question. the leadership framework that you described, competence, capacity, compassion, I would like to add another C, which is courage, because it requires courage to push through the necessary reforms to move Nigeria forward. Now to my question. Given how jarring the data we've seen are, I've also read through your manifesto. To me, it's a bit light on quantitative performance indicators. But I also know that in your campaign, you use a lot of data points to buttress your point. What would be the top 5 quantitative performance indicators by which Nigerians, if you are given the opportunity to lead this country, should judge your administration? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I've answered maybe 3 of them, so I add more. Well, you know, Charlie, the reason why it is not fair, at least thank God they said it's the best manifesto among the others. So, but the reason why I didn't go into that, I was waiting to come here and learn more of what I'm going to add. Because if I put everything, I don't know what is going to happen. I'm serious. You must leave room because you don't know everything. I cannot go. I told you that. I gave you an example yesterday. And it happened yesterday. And I called him. And he said, we can do it in 1 year. I said, no. Give me 3 years. Because, you know, I've served. There are things inside there that nobody's seen. Because people live off that confusion. These things you see, people live off it. They're not going to go away easily. So you need time to also manage them. That's why I added some years for their management and going. So I talked about the issue of security. I've talked about the issue of uniting the country. I've talked about the issue of this. And I can go on. Those things you see there are light. I would like you to help me to add the things I need to add that will make it work. Because that's why you're here. I'm being honest with you. I spoke to a former American president. We had a very lovely meeting. He said to me, Peter, he asked me a question. What is the most important thing you think in leadership? I said, listening and learning. He said, can you do that? I said, yes. He said, you will do well. Because I can tell you, when I became president of America, half of the things I didn't know it before I came there. It was by visiting all those chambers, and I came out with the idea that was more superior than what I came with. The difference between what I'm going to tell you now, which I said before, is implementation. Even if the worst person had come to Nigeria who didn't know anything, I started implementing what people have been writing for 28 years, things would have changed. Just said, I was telling them a story last night about Abacha. How we were almost supposedly be arrested for not paying duty. The port was congested. Everything was. Under Abacha, you clear goods so faster than you can do today. And we did everything. So we're supposed to be under arrest because they said we didn't pay duty. We didn't do anything. So we went to Abuja to see Abacha. We were 100. They said they're going to lock us up. Only 30 agreed to see him. And when they said I should speak, I started talking. Halfway, the man banged his table and said, call I need the minister. He said, form today. Put the congestion. You see this boy who is talking, which is me, chairman, thinker. That's how I got involved in the port. And when they finished it, everybody was clapping for Apaja for clearing the port. But all he did, he took decision by listening to us. That's all. If all these things that have listened to you, we won't be here talking. We would have been showing different data. So for me, it's a learning process. My manifesto is light on it, but all those things you saw, we will religiously follow it. Maybe increase based on what you're saying now. And I urge you, I'll be calling you, you give me things to add. I'm being honest with you. I'm collecting data like I'm collecting today. I'm adding them. Because I must run with them where people will say, this man is serious.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. My name is Emmanuel Ijewere. Agriculture is my new life. So, Your Excellency, we know that you'll be president of Nigeria at the federal level. The federal government really does not own any agricultural land. They all belong to the state governments. The plan that you have to now develop agriculture and make it a more productive sector of the economy, how will you, as president of Nigeria, be able to get this done? What is the plan? Because when that time comes, you have a situation where you might have governors who are anti-federal government. How do you handle this? These are the realities we are seeing in front of us. Thank you very much.
Okay. So these things were actually already defined and in our own constitution. The reason why you have National Economic Council is that the federal government is supposed to meet monthly. You know the same thing that have gone wrong in this country. The federal government of Nigeria is supposed to meet monthly with all the governors to decide economically the way the country will go. And that their decision is supposed to be binding. That is why that while we were signatory to MDG, and part of implementing our MDG was the reason why our debts were cancelled. We didn't benefit anything from that debt cancellation because we're supposed to take all our MDG, streamline it into our development agenda, starting from national, sub-national, and local governments. The same way it is when, if you go to the same constitution, you find out that the governor is supposed to meet with all the local government chairmen monthly. But I can tell you, even in my own case, I don't think we met maybe once in 3 months. It's not even proper. Why? None of us even meet. Some local government chairmen not meet their governor. You know, we were doing it monthly, but we found out, okay, it wasn't, we started doing it every quarterly. But it's supposed to be monthly. With that type of meeting properly implemented, I can assure you, no governor, anybody who says that governors might not oppose the president is not true. It is the president. I was telling somebody 2 days ago how a Lagos State governor spoke when he had an issue. And I was telling him, I said, can't you phone the president? Don't the president talk to you? And I was shocked. Under Yaradua, under Obasanjo, you can reach him. Under Yaradua, he calls every governor every month. He must call you, Mr. Obi, I think the state, okay, in your state. Is your state working? So there's no way you can have that, no matter which party. I governed Anambra State with 30 members. No, none of them is from my party. No local government chairman from my party. No senator. No House of Rep. And I worked with them. It's a question of how you deal with it. Even Niger State governor told me who is the outside. It's ready to give everybody land. But nobody can go there if there's no security. If you give somebody land where he will go and he will come back alive, will he go there? No. So I can tell you, the North is willing. They know it themselves. Whenever I talk about the vast land in the North, they know. And they are willing. And their communities are willing. Because you're not taking their land. You are saying, for example, we're doing ad growers. Am I right? Yes. The thing is that when you go, you don't see that thing they announce in TV. I'm sure you are involved with it. Nobody sees them on the ground. Everything they announce, SME support. I went to Aba, no SME got the law. I went to Newi, so I went to Alaba. So I was wondering where the SMEs. I even went to Ghana, asked whether there's, but there's none. So the same thing is what they do, that growers, whatever they call them. But if you go where it's working, because all this is we learn it from somewhere, before we bring it here, if you go where it's working, they're usually tied to a major facility, who is the miller, who now needs these people, who is actually the person they give the loan. But how can you go and give a senator money to go and give out grass and this disappears? So we're going to do it rightly. And it's not going to be done by government. We have a bank of industry. I've gone to other countries. These things are driven by the right process. All you do is to have a physical situation to support it, that the interest rate is low. But it must be done through a proper channel. What is the Bank of Industry celebrating? And so when people came to celebrate, they brought the rice paddy in Abuja, which has never been done in any country in the world. And the rice people were celebrating the CBN governor instead of the Minister of Agriculture or Bank of Agriculture MD. They said, what has CBN to do with rice? So these are things, we do things properly. We'll get it to work.
Good morning, Your Excellency. My name is Adenike Adeyemi, and I'm the lead facilitator for the NESG's MSME Community of Practice. A number of the initiatives you've talked about in terms of driving the economic growth lie in also the ability to enable micro, small, and medium enterprises to do that. We just finished a 3-day retreat at the NESG, and one of the things we talked about was the right regulatory and policy environment. And a major issue, which you've also indicated in your manifesto, is streamlining and harmonizing taxes. And part of that issue is not just at the federal level, as you know, but also at the state level. So to date, an MSME has at least 40 taxes, a lot of them levies, and in some states and local government up to about 77. This is nothing new. Past administrations have talked about streamlining and harmonizing taxes across board. What are you going to do differently? Thank you.
Well, what I'm going to do differently is that I told you about the issue of streamlining development. The reason why we failed in MDG is that China, today, the success of MDG, the example is China. We were signatories in year 2000 with China. But in 15 years, China used the same thing to pull 409 million people out of poverty. But you saw our own, the poverty increased. The reason, and if you go and read the documents of the debt forgiveness and everything, it was actually meant for implementation of the MDG, because Obasanjo, who went around doing this, wherever he is asked, I've seen people in America tell me, when he came here, he said, we know what to do, but that we have a debt overhang. Even this debt can be forgiven. So that's what we preach. And because I was asking that question, because I wanted to know whether we can come again and say, forgive our debt. But from what they're answering me, I don't think, if I go with that, I don't think anybody will listen to me. We have to find another story to tell them. Maybe that people are dying now. So, if we are streamlined it where from a national, subnational, and this, which includes the same thing, knowing fully well that the engine of growth in any economy is micro, small, medium enterprises. We should have been able to know how to support them. Today, that sector, they're on their own. No? Nobody cares for them, not even in terms of funding. If you look at our bank credits today, I might be the top chairmen and everything. They lend less than 5% of our entire credit to this sector. I wouldn't be up to 5%. 1%. You see what I'm telling you? In China, it's a law. 25%. In Indonesia, it's a law. I can show you countries of studies. Here, nobody cares. In fact, they open the door and see them, they just chase them out. The banks, well, they don't have anything. They don't have their mother's house and brothers listen to bring for us. See? So that sector alone, in every economy, produces at least 50%. In China, 60% of the GDP, almost 65% of the employment. 60% employment in China is 540 million. That is 2.5 times our population, if not 3 times our population. And this sector, in terms of export production, it has gone to Bangladesh. It's women doing tiny things that are sewing these clothes, they're exporting. That made them to export more in clothing than we did in oil and everything. So, streamlining it, we're going to do it differently. And fortunately, my sister came from that sector. I'm a trader. I was a member of this NASG, but not as a research fellow, just as a trader. So I'm a trader. I came from there. The only place that I live in my life, I say people, is Onitsha. And the only place I can live is Onitsha. Can't live any other place. That's the only place I live. Because why? It's the only place that I learn Nigeria. Anything I want to learn, I call people and say, that's why I said that all these things they do in TV don't work. Nobody in Onitsha have received any SME support. Transporters, they say they'll give it to transporters. After COVID, they have 10 billion for them. Not one transporter, not one. Put it on tape. Not one received 1 naira. They say have 20 billion for it. See all these things, they say trillion. They wrote here, the man wrote here. Nobody received it. Quote me anywhere. Even me, donated money to it. I didn't get the receipt. I donated money in 3 countries. No, I'm being honest with you. I donated money in 3 countries during COVID. $2,000, $2,000. In this country, I donated 20. No receipt. The other 2 gave me receipt. Me. Nobody even said thank you for donating $20,000. Being honest with you. So that thing they wrote in here is just in this TV that you saw it. Finish. Nobody got it. So this is what we do differently. It will go to where it's supposed to go. If it goes where it's supposed to go, your minister for humanitarian said they spent $7 billion. $7 billion fighting poverty in the past 5 years. That's 4.5 trillion. Each state would have gotten 100 billion. The difference is in implementation.
Thank you, sir. We'll take 2 questions together now.
Okay. So,
No,
good morning, Your Excellency, everyone.
Yes,
My name is Owen Omogiafo. I am the President and Group CEO of Transcorp. I'm glad you've talked about power, because indeed everything we're discussing is kind of like the foundation, whether it's security, manufacturing, the MSMEs. When I used to run the entrepreneurship program of the Tony Lulu Foundation, it was one of the things I used to complain about Nigeria. Earlier in your campaign, you visited Egypt. You went to see what was there. And last year, I met one of the people that you met, and they talked about it. We have 3 key players: generation, transmission, disco. In your 100 days, I know Dr. Sasuyi asked you that question. I just want you to pick one. What should we look forward to? My company is a key investor in that player. And we also are accountable to the shareholders. My AGM is coming up in March. And it will be I want to hear from you more on that sector. So that's one. Number 2, oil and we've talked about Nigeria's debt. I like what you said about we're taking the funds, we'll clearly invest it. Let's see, because truly there's nothing criminal about borrowing. OPM, other people's money. You borrow, you invest, but then let's see what is coming. Last year, Nigeria's oil production dropped. I'm happy to see my big brother up there. We missed an opportunity. What are we doing? Oil theft. What's going to happen? Now, for me in the power sector, I'm particularly interested, right? Because I need gas to power my turbines. Last week, I was in Afam to commission another turbine that is meant to bring 138 megawatts of power to this country that can power up to 100,000 homes. But guess what? I can only produce about 70 megawatts, 60 megawatts, because I do not have gas. So how is this being sorted? Then last question, which may be more like a comment. No, let's not take it as a question. It's about, I like this talk about Nigerian economy. I like what your question, Adenike. Policies that would encourage more inclusion of more women, not in politics, but in promoting and increasing the Nigerian economy. Thank you.
Thank you. So just take one.
No, so it's power,
Oil
oil and gas.
and women.
Your Excellency, my name is Emmanuel Ikazubo. Your Excellency, you know, a major problem we have, one of the problems we have in Nigeria today is that all the foreign investors have taken their money out. No one wants to bring in money because everyone is waiting. First of all, February 25th, the result might make some of them take a final decision whether they really want to be in this country or not. But beside that, the exchange rate, exchange difference, what do you think your government will do? Because we have this black market and the official market. No one wants to bring in his money into this country at an official rate, and we are asking them when they're taking it out, they can't get the official rate, they have to take it out at a black market rate, which means they're running it at a loss. What can we do, or what will your government do to ensure that we harmonize the black market and the official market? Or we should have one rate which everyone, all businesses, will use for bringing in and taking out their funds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me even start with I won't take your question away when it talks about the issue of race with even what my sister asked about multiple taxation. Because you say multiple rates, we will not have a multiple situation. Just like we do with taxation. If we have SMEs, we should be able to say, because the three levels of government sit together, we should be able to say, this is where we stand. And people will see it implemented. I was governor of Anambra State. You can go and check what happened there with the issue of, say, multiple taxation. Same thing goes with what you're saying. There will be one rate. This nonsense cannot continue. Cannot continue to allow people, we work, countries' rates have changed. Several countries have needed to have bad rates. And because they did the right things, the rates came reversed. Last year alone, because Angola did the right thing, their rate came down from almost 600 to below 400 when the oil price was there. We didn't, our own headed the other way around. After election in Zambia, the kwacha went from 22 to 16. And I can show you so many other countries where that changed. What is driving our rate of exchange? Rate of exchange of any country is driven by reserve. You people should know better. I'm talking at the trader now. And what drives a reserve? Your exports. What did your country export? A country as big as Nigeria, 200 and something million people living on 923,000 square kilometers of land, because we're not producing anything. Our total exports in 2021 is 18.9 trillion naira. If you use my rate, it's under $30 billion. It's unacceptable. Compared with countries like Malaysia, less than a third of our land, about 290,000 square kilometers, with about 34 million people, their export is over 250 billion, same year. Compared with a country like Vietnam, 331,000 square kilometers, a third of our land again, 100.5% of our population, export over 350 billion. We couldn't do 10% of what Vietnam is doing. 95% of what they export is manufactured goods. Vietnam did more in footwear than we did in oil in 2021. Our oil is between 15 and 18 billion. They did about 18 billion footwear. What is the footwear? I have 50,000 shoemakers in Aba. And they are 30 minutes away from the ocean terminal to export their goods. So this is not anything. It's something we can do. There's so many things we can do to generate even foreign exchange. Look at us here now. Ethiopian airline, Ethiopia is at the edge. They are the transshipment for Africa. Even our people go there to transit. Nigeria is the center. Nigeria is middle of Africa, it's in the middle. We should be transmission hub for the whole Africa. But because we're not doing anything, our shipment and airport should have been the shipment for the whole of Africa, because we are the center. But we now go to Ethiopia to take flight to Dubai, go to Ethiopia to take flight to this. There's so many things this country have that if you explore properly, can change the country. What we need is implementation. I've been governor. Anambra State was one place nobody wants to touch. Schools were closed. Things were not working. We didn't do anything different. I tell people, they say, oh, people who are working. I said, it was the teachers who were teaching when we were number 26. They were teaching when we were number 1. We didn't change the teachers. All that they changed is that we brought in new leadership that wanted to do the right things, and we focused on doing the right things, and it changed. What you said about, my dear, about oil and gas issue is a very sad that Nigeria is sitting on gas. Gas alone today, if well managed, can give us more money, more than we get from oil. Thank you. So we're going to, I won't tell you what I'm going to do in 100 days. I've said it to people. I'm not talking about 100 days. I'm saying that we're going to change it. If South Africa can declare emergency in power, we will declare war. Because they are generating almost 50,000 already. And they're declaring emergency. And our one is 5,000. No, 5,000. No, 5,000. And we're at 5,000 for 200 million people. And somebody who is generating 50,000 for 60 declared emergency will declare war. There's nothing in this power. When people talk about this power, I went to Egypt. I didn't go just to Egypt. I didn't go to India. But the 3 best countries in power, as you know, because it's your sector, in the past few years, we've doubled their power generation. Is Egypt. Egypt is now exporting power to Europe. It's Vietnam and it's India. So luckily they're all third world countries. That's why I went to study them. Maybe there's something they did that is sophisticated. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's something God knows now. Thank God you met the people I met. I went to their offices and everything. Saw even the means. I went to the power. What they did is that it's very simple. They found out what you said. They found that it was after the Arab Spring. They found out that power, education, health was a critical thing they needed to do to solve their problem and bring them to be domiciled in the presidency. As you know, power is an emergency issue in the office of the president. In fact, everybody in Egypt knows what is being generated. There's a board in the presidential office. There's one in the minister. Everybody. I went to the three places. They will say, this is power we're generating. This is what we are consuming. Here, we don't even know. Every Nigerian hears every day. Generation. Which one? The other one collapsed. The other one up. No, we can't continue that way. We will invest. Just ensure that the right support is given to you, the existing people. Again, deal with the issue of transmission. We'll not bundle it. It can no longer go on the way it is today. And then deal with the issue of distribution. I believe that the right support can change it. Even in our manifesto, I said, we'll ensure that we finish what is existing with Siemens, because I discussed with them what is happening. We believe that if properly implemented, supporting you people, we'll be able to do this by the end of this year, maybe 7,000. And then we'll put in 15 million, because what they showed me in Egypt so that this thing can increase annually. It's not going to take years. It's a question of the rights, doing the right thing. That's what we're going to do.
Can I push the thing back to you, to the NESG something? I'm talking to my brother here. Back 30-something years or so ago, Shell had led a process that was concluded of pipe gas all the way to the industrial parts of our country. Into power generation, everything was approved by the Federal Executive Council. And then 2 meetings after, Nura Imam comes with some policy thing about how NEPA was not happy and this was not happy, and all of that died. Can we return to smart thinking like that again?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Because of time, we'd like you to take your closing remarks as we round up this dialogue session. Thank you so much, everyone, for your contributions.
My closing remark remains that what you are seeing in Nigeria, the failure of Nigeria as a nation today, is cumulative effect of leadership failure over the years. All we're going through rests on the quality of leadership the country has had over the years. And that the difference between where we want to be and what we're getting is leadership. If we have the right leadership that is ready to implement the ideas that have been well documented through the NSG and other bodies in Nigeria, Nigeria will be a different thing. An assurance I'm giving you is that this month's election, please, it should not be by ethnicity or tribe. We voted that in the past. No tribe today buys bread cheaper. Everybody's hungry. This poverty we saw across the board. It should not be by religion. No religion buys bread cheaper. This poverty we are seeing is across the board. It should not even be by anybody's tongue. We've awarded people on their tongue. It is you now to take back the country and let it be different. All I'm offering you is that and that comes with a new Nigeria, a new thinking, a transformative and committed governance that will be all-inclusive, that will make Nigeria work, that will make every Nigerian feel, I'm a Nigerian, no longer East, West, and everything. And it will be the end of the